Get uncomfortable. We want you to be uncomfortable.
Tonight, Mohawk Ellen Gabriel testifies to the Senate committee studying Canada's relationship with Indigenous people.
Punches him, yells like he's got a knife. We grab him from the ground and we throw him off the bus.
Bear Clan volunteers step up during a violent situation in Winnipeg, but show compassion towards the knife-wielding perpetrator.
Good evening. Thanks for joining me on APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Two members of Winnipeg's Bear Clan patrol were assaulted on a Winnipeg transit bus while trying to protect another passenger who was being attacked. The incident has them questioning if the Bear Clan should extend patrols to include city buses. Here's Ashley Branson with that story.
This guy's a threat. He's a threat to my life. He's a threat to everyone's life. And I needed to get that knife away from him.
Around midnight on Sunday, Jonathan Meikle and Matthew Shorting were on a bus at Graham Avenue on Donald Street in Winnipeg. Meikle and Shorting were sitting on the back of the bus when a man began shouting racial slurs at another passenger. The pair say the man threatened to stab the individual in the neck.
He said, "No one on this bus will do anything."
The attacker tried to follow the passenger off the bus, but that's when the two volunteers from the Bear Clan jumped into action.
Jonathan yelled, "Hey!" And this guy turned around, and he comes in, he does a Spartan kick. He kicks this guy, and he punches him, yells like he's got a knife. We grab him from the ground and we throw him off the bus.
The pair detained the individual until police arrived shortly after. Meikle was then taken to the hospital and received 8 surgical staples after being stabbed in the back of his leg. Public Information Officer Jay Murray says in situations like this, Winnipeg police advise people to put themselves in a position of safety and call the police, but he admits that's not always possible.
In this situation, they put themselves in front of this. They potentially stop somebody from getting seriously hurt.
23-year-old Devin Evan Charles Henderson has been charged with robbery, uttering threats, and assault with a weapon. But despite the altercation, Meikle and Shorting empathize for the man.
This individual is not like solely to blame. There's environments that shaped him, and he didn't get there by himself.
He was not in a well place. There's something that caused him to act out this way. I think we need to look and put under the microscope more of our systems and really get down to the root causes of what's causing all these events to take place. So I think we could do better as a society.
In hopes to avoid another situation like this, Meikle and Shorting hope the Bear Clan becomes more of a safety role for Winnipeg Transit. Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A safe space honoring the life of Tina Fontaine has officially opened in Winnipeg's North End. Tina's Safe Haven is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as a drop-in centre for Indigenous youth.
We've had contact with Tina Fontaine in the weeks prior to her passing, and we feel, if there had been a resource like this at that time, there could have been an different outcome for her.
Run out of the Ndonaway Centre, the 15-year-old's body was pulled from the Red River in August 2014. In March, Ottawa committed roughly $350,000 to expand services there. The centre has been renovated to include a gaming room and a cultural space. On hand for the opening were 2 commissioners from the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Women and Girls. It was Fontaine's death that sparked the calls for that inquiry.
People haven't forgotten Tina, and that we can have conversations about, the murdered and missing Indigenous women, the risks that our young people face on the streets every day, so the more that we can have those conversations, the more that we can bring light to the issue, we're hoping we'll see some progress in protection of our young people.
The Senate Committee on Aboriginal Peoples continues to study how to build a new relationship with Indigenous people here. Today, Ellen Gabriel gave her view on the relationship. She's the former president of the Quebec Native Women's Association, and she pulled no punches before the senators this morning.
Get uncomfortable. We want you to be uncomfortable so that you can get with us, because that's where we are. We are on our homelands, and we are uncomfortable. We see nothing that reflects our traditional territories and homelands. We continue to fight, and as we fight, we exist just to survive. That is not living. And people are only talking at us, and they think that they know what's best for us. We're going to have another 150 years of spinning our wheels. Our people need the help now, and they're not getting it. Our families are being torn apart. They were torn apart in Indian residential school. We have more children in the child welfare system. We have the woman who advocated on behalf of Indigenous families and children being criminalized by the government of Canada. What does that say about Canada?
Treaty 1 First Nations have unveiled their plans to develop the former Kapion Barrett site in Winnipeg. It took nearly a decade for First Nations to acquire the Crown surplus land. With more, we have this report from CTV.
Area resident George Thomas has lived just west of the vacant Kapion Barracks for more than 3 years. He's ready to see new buildings rise in its place.
It's got to be an improvement over what this is.
A rendering released by Treaty 1 First Nations gives a glimpse into the possible future of the former barracks. The plan calls for housing, hotels, and sports facilities on the vacant military base.
I'm very relieved that we're able to bring this out so we can now generate, some interest on what Kapion holds for the future.
The Treaty 1 group reached an agreement in principle with Ottawa this past April to create an urban reserve on the site. At the corner of Kenniston Boulevard and Grant Avenue, the rendering calls for a mix of medium-density and low-density residential housing, commercial buildings, and an Indigenous hospice. Between Grant and Taylor, an Indigenous War Museum, a daycare, educational buildings combined with more housing and commercial buildings, including a hotel and gas bar. South of Taylor Avenue, a convention center, sports facilities, and plans for a second hotel and gas bar.
This is the first offering. It's not set in stone, obviously. I mean, we're going to go through a consultation process with the Treaty 1 people.
Area City Councillor John Orlico likes the look of the preliminary design.
It's more rec than I thought, recreation services, and a lot more community services than I expected. I think it's very be well received.
Long Plain First Nation Chief Dennis Meaches says the Treaty 1 group still has to negotiate a municipal services agreement with the city and finalize the agreement with Ottawa before its vision can become reality. George Thomas says the sooner that happens, the better.
I think it's all going to be positive in the long run.
Josh Crabb, CTV News, Winnipeg.
A new episode of Face to Face airs tonight right after the news. Cree environmentalist Creighton Thomas Mueller sits down with host Dennis Ward to talk pipelines, the tar sands, and the upcoming federal election. Here's a sneak peek.
Indigenous peoples need to take a good hard look at the failures of Justin Trudeau in delivering on water, access to clean water, delivering on adopting and ratifying the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and on completely shattering his promises to be a real climate leader by approving pipelines and the expansion of the tar sands. We can do better, and we need to do that through the way that we show up at the polls this year.
Over on the East Coast, we've got 11 and rain in Fredericton, 15 and rain in Halifax. Inukjuak's -4 with some snow. Nain is 0 and rain. Sept-Îles is rain and 7. Quebec City 8 and rain. Montreal a little bit of sunshine and 11. Peterborough is rain and 4. London is 3 and some rain. Sault Ste. Marie rain and 4. Big Trout Lake snow and -8, 0 and lots of flurries in Thunder Bay. Churchill is -13 with some snow. God's Lake -8 and snowy. The Paw is -6 and snow. Winnipeg, snow and -4. Gimli, some sunshine and -4. Brandon's -9 and snow. North Battleford -9 and sunny. -10 in Saskatoon with some sunshine. -10s for Uranium City and Stony Rapids. La Ronge is -9 with some snow. Meadow Lake is sunny and -10.
Welcome back. A woman from the Stoney Nakoda First Nation near Calgary was so active on social media that she was able to convince band members to reject a land sale and a referendum. Now the band that her father used to lead is suing her for $1 million. Tamara Pimentel explains.
Earlier this month, Stoney Nakoda residents voted no in a referendum that would commercialize nearly 3,000 hectares of land. For activist Rachel Snow, it was a victory, but she received this days later. a claim stating she is being sued for $1 million for what Snow calls voicing her opinions.
I laughed when I received it. I didn't think it was serious because I am just trying to give information on what could happen with the land designation, what are the dangers, because we just can't have one side.
Leading up to the vote, Snow says Chief and Council weren't keeping the community informed when it came to the land designation. So she created a Facebook group, Vote No to the Stoney Nakoda Land Designation, where she kept members updated with information.
Because we don't have all the information, we're not sure what it would mean. It could mean that there would be some new developments that the people know nothing about.
On September 10, Snow created a post on Facebook stating Chief and Council don't manage finances properly and encouraging members to vote no. She was then served a cease and desist letter advising her to remove her posts, which they say are defamatory. Her posts remain on Facebook. The Stoney Nakoda First Nation is divided by 3 bands, Bearspaw, Wesley, and Chiniki. Snow is a member of Wesley Band, and it was Chiniki that served the cease and desist letter and later statement of claim, suing her for defamatory remarks. Snow believes what she wrote isn't defamatory because she isn't a part of the Chiniki Band, and the Chiniki Band was not mentioned in her posts.
In my opinion, it's not defamation. If Trudeau himself decided to sue everybody on Facebook, he would be constantly suing people, because there are a lot of people who make remarks about Trudeau and he can't. It's almost like a frivolous or vexatious, it's a time-wasting lawsuit, and it's again like meant to silence.
According to Urban Systems, the company behind the land designation, there have been 5 open community sessions a few weeks before the vote. Snow says that isn't enough time to fully understand the land designation and says a lack of transparency is a national issue. Nationally,
people are starting to say it's the people who collectively hold the land, it's the people who collectively hold the rights. I just hope that the message gets out for other people who are trying to have a voice, for other people who are trying to express what needs to be said, that they are not being silenced, or that they are not suffering any kind of harms because they are just asking for more information or clarification, that they don't feel threatened to the point where they can't speak, because we're the Indigenous people, we're the true voices of this land, we're the first voices of this land, and our voices need to be heard.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, on the Stoney Nakoda First Nation.
Spokesperson Heather Carnahan said the Band Council did hold meetings to explain the land sale was because of decreasing gas revenues.
If the community wants to continue to have those things provided from the nation's own funds, we have to look at diversifying and finding other ways to bring in revenues. The other part is looking at other ways to bring in jobs so that people can be working on the reserve.
The Native Women's Association of Canada is expanding its services. It has created an LGBTQ2S unit to fill a much-needed gap. The educator of the new program joins us from our Ottawa studio. Welcome, RJ Jones. So tell us about this new unit and what it's going to offer.
So basically what we're hoping to offer is a variety of education, but resources for Indigenous people across Canada to understand the complexities of two-spirited people, but really to also understand LGBTQ issues, particularly like gender diversity, but also having that inclusion of like recognizing the historical context and understanding that two-spirit people and people of diverse gender backgrounds existed pre-colonization, and we kind of want to bring that information forward and essentially to disseminate that across Canada and to really better the healthcare of like two-spirit and LGBTQ2S+ Indigenous people across the board.
So why is this? I mean, it's 2018, so I guess I understand what you're saying. Why it's needed, but why hasn't it already been met? Why hasn't this demand already kind of been met? It's 2018.
So I think when we look at things in a historical context, the conversations of like LGBTQ Indigenous people has something that, yes, people have been talking for a long time, but there's another issue that we have to understand, that because of residential schools and because of the 60s scoop and general like forms of like colonialism, that has impacted the way that people see like LGBTQ plus issues, especially like issues around gender diversity. So a lot of that has to do with just understanding that, yes, like I guess in a national level, people are talking about LGBTQ rights, but that doesn't mean that conversation looks the same within more marginalized groups, and that being like Indigenous people. So really, like, I think why we're starting to see this change now goes back to understanding that this is starting to be a conversation that is happening within communities across Canada, and people are not equipped. But it wouldn't have been happening if it wasn't for the need and the demand, and a lot of that comes from like young people feeling safe enough to come out or to begin having conversations on gender diversity. Well, that might have looked very different for like even my generation and generations before me. So again, it just very much comes back and ties into like the historical context that colonization has impacted the way that we see LGBTQ2S+ people, particularly gender diversity, and how that's starting to be an okay conversation within our communities.
Okay, and so how are you going to get the word out?
So right now, I really want to do outreach online. I have a lot of contacts throughout Canada because I've been doing this work for a while. So really just kind of outreaching to those communities and sending it to them. But also, I know there are issues with like rural and urban, rural versus urban, and how rural doesn't tend to get the same amount of information. So I kind of want to go back to old school and not heavily rely on social media, but also be able to send like information packets to different groups such as NWAC's PTMAs across Canada, but also even in northern communities or communities where you can't actually rely on internet. So again, we're going to do lots of like on the grounds information, but also the thing with like LGBTQ2S+ people is that it's already a really small community, so really it's already beginning to spread, luckily. So, and it all comes back to like the people who are involved and who have been a part of this conversation from the beginning, who are really, and people who really believe in the work, who are actually just going to spread that awareness. So it's very much like word of mouth.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing this with us, and we look forward to watching the rollout.
Thank you.
We need to take another quick break, but when we come back, an Innu community leading the way in sustainable development. But first, here's the rest of tomorrow's weather. To northern Alberta, we've got -11 and sunny in High Level, -11 and sunny in Fort McMurray too. -7 with some sun in Edmonton, -3 and rain in Calgary and Lethbridge. Lots of sun in BC, Campbell River's in at 9, Penticton 6, Victoria and Vancouver both 10. -10 in Dease Lake with sunshine, -2 and sunny in Prince George, Sandspits, rain and 9. 22 in sunshine up in Old Crow, -13 and sunny in Whitehorse, -24 in sunshine in Dawson City. Norman Wells is -15, Wrigley -18, Fort Simpson -15, lots of sun in NWT. Tuck is in at -14, as is Inuvik, and -18 in Fort McPherson. -19 in Cambridge Bay with sunshine, -17 in Chesterfield with sun. -24 in Arctic Bay, Pangertung's -8 with some flurries, and Iqaluit's -3 with flurries as well. Welcome back. And a new community on the Quebec North Shore is leading the way with sustainable development initiatives. This week, Hiquanichit is holding its third conference to educate future generations. Danielle Rochette has more.
Troisième édition du Salon de développement durable. Mes amis, venez nous voir à l'école Tewagan au gymnase.
Jean-Charles Pietachou has been chief of the Edu community of Hiquanichit for almost 30 years. He started hosting the morning radio show 2 years ago. Today, he invites the community's 700 members to come to the Sustainable Development Conference.
Hiquanichit, dans la nation Innu, là, je pense qu'on est une des communautés là, qui a commencé et qui a mis en action ce qu'on a parlé il y a peut-être 2 ans, 3 ans. Et je pense que c'est ça qui est important, c'est oui, parler, mais agir, c'est encore mieux.
Adeline Basil has been acting on community projects aimed at protecting Mother Earth. As more than 50% of the population is under 25 years old, she says it's important to have the entire First Nation on board with the projects, and some initiatives have already been launched.
La récupération d'eau de pluie a été installée dans 2 maisons. Ensuite de ça, on a fait changer les luminaires de notre patinoire extérieure. C'est des luminaires Odell maintenant, qui a une économie d'énergie, une économie de sous aussi. Puis prochainement, on va changer toutes les lampadaires de nos rues. Il y a 57 lampadaires ici à Mingan. On va toutes les changer pour les lumières Odell.
Basil and her team also recently started the compost pickup. 95% of community members are participating. 3 days a week, employees fill up the bins, they separate the leftovers, and then bring them to the compost site at the edge of town.
Ben, nous autres, on veut que ça soit dans des projets concrets comme ça qu'on veut participer à la réduction de l'empreinte écologique.
And there will be a second phase for composting animals' bone that will respect the Inuit traditional beliefs.
Nos mets traditionnels, le castor, le lièvre, l'outarde, tout ça, dans nos principes à nous, en tant que peuple autochtone, il faut retourner ces ossements-là à la nature.
Equinetchit has many more projects to come, such as a greenhouse, solar energy, and a community garden. And they hope they will inspire the Indigenous community to follow suit. Danielle Rochette, APTN National News, Equinetchit, Quebec.
More than 80 kids missed class in Nova Scotia today. They were in Halifax learning robotics, tidal wave energy, and woodworking. APTN's Angel Moore explains.
Youth from communities across Nova Scotia gathered at the Halifax Convention Centre to explore career opportunities in trade and technology. The event was held by Skills Canada, which works with government and industry to promote opportunities for youth. Julie Paul says the interactions is helping her think about career plans.
It just shows you what is available to you, and it's very helpful. You know, you're able to ask any questions that you want to ask. And
the interactive workshops encourage questions, which Jacob Cope took advantage.
This is a great place to learn and get more information about what you want to do in your life. So if you want to be this, then you could get a lot more information on it.
Chaperones from communities attend to help youth make the most of the day. This is April Prosper's second year.
Just answering those questions that a lot of people struggle with when they leave high school. It's like, what do I want to do? So at least this is helping them guide their way, which way that they want to go.
The event is designed to mix education and fun. Shannon Campbell says it is a chance for the youth to learn what they like and don't like.
Everyone's smiling, so I think that is a good indicator. So we'll see how everyone's feeling at the end of the day, and if they feel like they're a little more informed and have a better idea of maybe what field they might want to go into.
Campbell hopes more students will attend next year. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Halifax.
We've got some incredible video to share with you today. A fisherman in Central California jumped into the water to rescue a whale that was trapped in a rope.
Get it, Sam! Zip, jump on the whale right now and cut it!
The man dove in after his crew spotted the humpback struggling off Morro Bay north of Santa Maria. They had called the Coast Guard but decided to take matters into their own hands. You can see the man get right on top of the whale, who was eventually freed from the rope. While some are hailing the fisherman a hero, marine mammal experts say the rescue could have been deadly. Not sure that's how I would have handled it, but it looks like it worked out. That's all the news I have for you tonight. Stay tuned now for Face to Face with Dennis Ward. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.